When in Rome, Chapter 2. What am I going to do? Molly trembled. She looked around the parking lot, hoping they were just playing a joke on her. But after several hours of wandering around the park, she realized the chance of seeing them was gone. She grimaced at the bag full of cornetti, the most expensive breakfast she ever paid. Uncertain what her next plan would be, she aimlessly walked along the beach, passing shops and motels, and wondered where she would sleep tonight. She has no money to make any calls, and even if she did, she would not know whom to reach. Her father and his family went camping somewhere and did not specify exactly where. As the sun went down, uncertainty led to fear. Maybe I should just hitch a ride and go back to Rome. Maybe the airport will forgive that I lost my passport and the airline will replace the ticket. But that idea sounded far-fetched, and the hitchhiking seemed frightening. Molly went back to the beach, sitting on a boulder, watching the waves. It was mesmerizing, despite the predicament. She enjoyed the moment of being part of the scene. Another evening approached, and the sky was filled with colorful shades of yellow and orange. For some reason, she didn't panic anymore, because there was nothing she could do at this time. I could scream and cry, but the last thing I needed was getting some unwanted attention. It's been 3 days that Molly has lingered in Santa Marinella, sleeping on the beach nearby the umbrella when the place was closed. She has been staring out to the sea, feeling desperately hungry. The cornetti were gone, so the only thing she could have was drinking water from the fountain at the beach. Her desperation let her pass the convenience store several times. She even went in just to look at the food. And by the third day, while she was hanging around there, a group of tourists went into the store. She followed them. And while they were waiting in line for the cashier to check them out, she took some sandwiches and chips and soda and hid them in her backpack and walked out. She sprinted to a nearby alley and ate and drank so fast that she almost threw up. Molly stole food from different convenience stores for the next couple of days. But by the 5th day, Molly was not so lucky. It was in the evening, and she found a store where the register counter was busy with customers and went in. Quickly, she grabbed some food out of the fridge and put them in her bag. But as soon as she was on her way out, the sales clerk shouted at her in Italian. She ran out as fast as she could, and he caught her after 100 yards and peeled her backpack off of her shoulder. "My clothes!" She stopped running. He took the food she stole out of the bag and dragged her back to the store. The sales clerk reached for a phone on the counter and dialed 3 numbers. She gulped. Again, she did not understand a word he was saying except the word "Policia." He searched through her things, and she was too scared to object. He took out her wallet and flipped through it and said, "Ah, Americana." Then he smirked and said something else and shook his head. It must have only been less than 10 minutes when a police car showed up in front of the store. An officer came in and said hello to him. They exchanged a few words that sounded like gibberish to her. The officer looked at her and asked her something in Italian, and she just shrugged. The men said something to him and added the word Americana and gave him her backpack. The officer waved at the sales clerk as he escorted Molly out of the store and into his police car. For a split moment, she thought about running away, but she did not have the stomach to handle more trouble. The officer led Molly to the police station and gestured her to sit next to an office desk. He suddenly spoke in English. "Would you like something to drink? Coffee? Water?" She was stunned that he could speak English. She stuttered, Water, please." He came back with a bottle of water and handed it to her. "Thank you," she said. He sat at his desk across from her and took his cap off and placed it on the table. He pulled out a sheet of paper and said, "The store manager said that you stole food and drink from him." She looked down and nodded slowly. He put the pen down and leaned back against his chair. "You're traveling alone?" She nodded again. "If you came all the way from the U.S., why can't you pay for the food? Why did you have to steal?" "I got robbed." The officer listened to her telling him what happened and did not say anything. He looked at his watch and stepped outside and hollered at someone. After he spoke to another officer briefly outside the office, he came back and said, "Okay, you can stay here in the jail cell for the night, or, if you're not afraid, you can come stay at my apartment." Molly gulped and looked at his face, as well as his deep green eyes. She said, "Your place." Then blurted, "Do you have food?" He laughed. "Yes, of course."